In the last episode, humanity had finally emerged victorious against the Galactic Council's desperate attack, proving that their unpredictability and emotional depth were not weaknesses, but strengths. The main character, a young and ambitious entrepreneur, had played a key role in guiding humanity to greatness. As the leader of the most powerful empire in the galaxy, he stood poised to face new challenges and opportunities, ready to make his mark on the cosmos and secure a legacy that would last for generations to come. The stars shone brightly outside my office window, a constant reminder of the vast expanse of possibilities that lay before us. I stood up from my chair, walking over to the transparent viewport that offered a stunning view of the galaxy. Earth, once a fragile and isolated planet, had become the capital of a thriving empire, a beacon of hope and progress for countless worlds. As I gazed out into the void, memories of the journey that had brought us here flooded my mind. The early days of struggle and perseverance, the formation of unlikely alliances with overlooked species, and the countless battles fought and won. It was a testament to the resilience and determination of the human spirit. My thoughts were interrupted by the soft chime of my comms device. I turned to see my trusted assistant, Rachel, standing in the doorway with a hint of urgency in her expression. "Sir, we have an incoming transmission from the Kralian ambassador. They request a meeting to discuss a matter of great importance." I raised an eyebrow, intrigued. The Kralians were one of our closest allies, a species known for their skill in advanced biotechnology. Their involvement in any matter was likely to be significant. "Send the ambassador a message, Rachel. I'll meet with them in 30 minutes. As I waited for the ambassador to arrive, my mind began to wander to the challenges that lay ahead. Our rapid rise to power had not gone unnoticed, and there were those who sought to undermine our progress. The Galactic Council, though defeated, still posed a threat, and we had to remain vigilant. The door to my office slid open, and the Kralian ambassador Zorvath entered. His long, slender body seemed to glide across the floor, his large, black eyes fixed intently on me. "Ambassador, please, have a seat." Zorvath took a seat, his expression grave. "The purpose of my visit, Director, is to discuss a recent discovery. One of our scientists has made a groundbreaking find in the Outer Rim. A hidden cache of ancient technology, potentially capable of propelling our civilizations to new heights." I leaned forward, my interest piqued. "Tell me more." The ambassador's words spilled out in a rapid, urgent stream. "It appears that this technology, created by an ancient civilization known as the Architects, holds the key to unlocking new dimensions of space-time. The implications are staggering. With this technology, we could expand our reach, explore new worlds, and solidify our position in the galaxy." As Zorvath spoke, my mind reeled with the possibilities. This could be the game-changer we needed to secure humanity's future. But I also sensed a hint of unease emanating from the ambassador, a concern that there was more to this discovery than met the eye. "What concerns you, Ambassador? You seem hesitant to share this news." Zorvath's expression turned somber. "There is another party involved, Director, one that seeks to claim this technology for themselves. The Zeridian Empire, a ruthless and cunning foe, has learned of our discovery. They will stop at nothing to acquire it." My gut tightened at the mention of the Zeridians. They were a force to be reckoned with, a vast and technologically advanced empire that had long been a thorn in our side. We cannot let them get their hands on this technology. Not now, not when we're so close to achieving our goals. I made a decision. "Ambassador, I want you to work with our teams to secure this cache of technology. I want to know everything about it, and I want it now." Zorvath nodded, a determined look on his face. "I'll see to it, Director, but I must warn you the Zeridians will not give up easily. We will need to be cautious to outmaneuver them at every turn." I smiled, a plan already forming in my mind. "I am counting on it, Ambassador. The fate of our empire may depend on it." With that, the meeting concluded, and I set in motion a chain of events that would change the course of history. The game was afoot, and humanity was ready to take its next bold step into the unknown. But as I turned back to the viewport, gazing out into the stars, I couldn't shake the feeling that there were still secrets lurking in the shadows, waiting to be uncovered. The universe was full of mysteries, and I had a feeling that this was only the beginning. The darkness of space seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy, as if the very fabric of reality was shifting, preparing for the next great challenge. And I, for one, was ready to face it head-on. The stars shone brightly, a reminder of the infinite possibilities that lay before us. I smiled, a sense of excitement and anticipation building within me. The future was bright, and humanity was ready to take its place among the stars. As I stood there, lost in thought, the darkness of space seemed to whisper secrets in my ear. The stars twinkled like diamonds, and I felt the universe beckoning me to explore its mysteries. A gentle chime from my comms device broke the spell, and I turned to face Rachel, who had entered the room with a subtle smile. "Sir, we've received a message from the Zeridian Empire. They request a meeting to discuss the recent discovery." I raised an eyebrow, intrigued by the sudden development. The Zeridians were notorious for their cunning and deceit. What could they possibly want to discuss? "Send a response, Rachel. I'll meet with their ambassador, but I want our team to be prepared for any eventuality." As I waited for the Zeridian ambassador to arrive, I couldn't help but wonder what tricks they had up their sleeve. Were they trying to negotiate, or was this just a ploy to distract us from their true intentions? The door to my office slid open, and the Zeridian ambassador, Kaida, entered with an air of confidence. Her piercing green eyes locked onto mine, and I sensed a hint of amusement in her voice. "Director, it's an honor to finally meet you. I've heard a great deal about your resourcefulness." I smiled, my mind racing with possibilities. This was a game of cat and mouse, and I was determined to outmaneuver them at every turn. "Ambassador, please, what can I do for you?" Kaida's expression turned saccharine sweet. "We're willing to offer you a deal, Director, a partnership that would benefit both our empires." My instincts screamed warning, but I maintained a neutral tone. "I am listening, Ambassador." Kaida leaned forward, her voice taking on a conspiratorial tone. "We've discovered that the ancient technology has the potential to unlock new dimensions of space-time. Imagine it, Director, our empires, working together, exploring the unknown, and solidifying our positions in the galaxy." I raised an eyebrow, feigning curiosity. "And what exactly do you propose we do, Ambassador?" Kaida's smile grew wider. "We'll work together to unlock the secrets of the technology. In return, we'll provide you with access to our advanced research facilities and share our knowledge of the galaxy." I felt a shiver run down my spine. This was a trap, a cleverly crafted web of deceit. But I played along, my mind racing with strategies. "I am intrigued, Ambassador, but I need to consult with my advisors before making any decisions." Kaida's expression turned calculating. "Very well, Director. I'll give you 48 hours to consider our proposal. After that, we'll be forced to take alternative measures." The meeting concluded, and I watched as Kaida departed, her confidence stride a stark contrast to the unease that churned in my gut. The Zeridians were playing a high-stakes game, and I knew I had to counter their move. I turned to Rachel, my voice low and urgent. "Assemble our team, Rachel. We need to uncover the secrets of this ancient technology, and we need to do it quickly." The stars shone brightly, a constant reminder of the universe's infinite mysteries, and I for one was ready to unravel them, no matter the cost. But as I gazed out into the void, I couldn't shake the feeling that the Zeridians had an ace up their sleeve, waiting to strike. The game was far from over, and the stakes had never been higher. The darkness of my office seemed to closing in around me as I pondered the Zeridians' proposal. Every fiber of my being screamed that this was a trap, a cleverly crafted ploy to gain the upper hand. But I had to consider the possibilities, no matter how remote. Rachel's voice broke the silence, her words laced with a hint of concern. "Sir, I've assembled the team. They're waiting for you in the strategy room." I nodded, my mind already racing with strategies and countermeasures. Let's get to work, Rachel. We have 48 hours to unravel the secrets of this ancient technology. As I entered the strategy room, the assembled team turned to face me, their eyes filled with a mix of determination and curiosity. Dr. Patel, our chief scientist, stood at the forefront, her eyes sparkling with intensity. Director, we've made some groundbreaking discoveries. The ancient technology is far more advanced than we initially thought. It has the potential to. I raised a hand, cutting her off. Dr. Patel, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but let's focus on the bigger picture. We need to understand the Zeridians' motivations. What do they stand to gain from this partnership? Captain Lewis, my trusted military advisor, spoke up, his voice laced with skepticism. Sir, I think it's clear they're trying to buy time. They want to stall us while they develop their own technology. I nodded, my mind racing with possibilities. That's a good point, Captain, but what if there's more to it? What if they've discovered something that could give them an edge over us? Doctor, Patel's eyes lit up with excitement. That's a possibility, Director. What if we're not the only ones who've discovered the ancient technology? What if the Zeridians have found something similar or even more advanced? The room fell silent, the weight of Dr. Patel's words sinking in. If the Zeridians had indeed discovered something more advanced, we were in grave danger. The stakes had just been raised, and I knew I had to act quickly. All right, team. This is what we're going to do. Dr. Patel, I want you to work around the clock to unlock the secrets of the ancient technology. Captain Lewis, assemble a team to gather intel on the Zeridians' research facilities. I want to know what they're working on, and I want to know yesterday. Rachel, I want you to dig deep into Kaida's past. Find out what makes her tick, what her motivations are. I want to know if she's playing us or if she's genuinely interested in a partnership. The team nodded, their faces set with determination. We had 48 hours to uncover the truth, and I knew we would stop at nothing to achieve our goal. As I turned to leave, a sudden thought struck me. What if the Zeridians weren't the only ones playing a game of cat and mouse? What if there was another player, one who had been watching from the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike? The stars twinkled outside, a reminder of the universe's infinite mysteries, and I, for one, was ready to unravel them, no matter the cost. As I walked back to my office, the weight of the challenge before us settled on my shoulders. The clock was ticking, and every minute counted. I couldn't shake off the feeling that we were being watched, that there was someone else pulling the strings from behind the scenes. I sat down at my desk, my eyes scanning the holographic display projecting from my terminal. Rachel's research on Kaida's past hovered on the edge of my vision, tantalizingly close. I knew I had to stay focused, but my mind kept wandering back to the Zeridians' proposal. 48 hours. It wasn't much time, but I had faith in my team. We'd pulled off the impossible before. We could do it again. My gaze drifted to the stars outside, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. The universe was full of secrets, and I was determined to uncover as many of them as possible. Just as I was about to dive into Rachel's research, my terminal beeped, signaling an incoming transmission. I raised an eyebrow, wondering who could be contacting me at this hour. The holographic display flickered, and a familiar face materialized before me. It was Aaron, the enigmatic informant who had helped us uncover the truth about the ancient technology in the first place. Director, I heard you're looking into the Zeridians' proposal, Aaron said, his voice as smooth as silk. I might have some information that could prove enlightening. I leaned forward, my heart racing with anticipation. What do you know, Aaron? Aaron's gaze darted to the side as if he was wary of being overheard. Meet me on the outer rim of the Andromeda sector. I'll share what I've learned. But be careful, Director. You're not the only one looking for answers. The transmission ended, leaving me staring at the stars, my mind reeling with possibilities. Who was Aaron working for? And what did he know about the Zeridians' true intentions? I didn't have to think twice. I called up Rachel, my voice low and urgent. "Rachel, assemble a team. We have a meeting to attend." Rachel's voice came through the comms system, crisp and professional. "Already on it, Director." "Who's the contact?" "Aaron," I replied, my fingers flying across the terminal as I pulled up the encrypted coordinates he sent. "He claims to have information on the Zeridians' proposal." There was a pause, and I could almost hear Rachel's mind working overtime. "I'll get the team ready, Director, but we need to be careful. This could be a trap." I nodded to myself, even though Rachel couldn't see me. I shared her concerns, but we couldn't afford to pass up this opportunity. "Well, be prepared for any eventuality, Rachel. Just make sure the team is equipped for a worst-case scenario." The line went dead, and I sat back in my chair, my eyes never leaving the stars outside. Aaron's message had stirred up more questions than answers. Who was behind the Zeridians' proposal? And what did they really want from humanity? I stood up, my mind made up. It was time to get some answers. The team assembled in the docking bay, their faces set with determination. Rachel stood at the forefront, her eyes locked on mine. "Director, we're ready when you are," she said, her voice firm. I nodded, a surge of adrenaline coursing through my veins. "Let's do this." The ship's engines roared to life, and we lifted off into the unknown, the Andromeda sector beckoning like a siren's call. As we journeyed through the void, the silence was palpable, each of us lost in our own thoughts. I couldn't shake off the feeling that we were walking into a trap, that Aaron was just a pawn in a much larger game. But I pushed the doubts aside, focusing on the task at hand. We had to uncover the truth behind the Zeridians' proposal, no matter the cost. The stars blurred around us as we entered the outer rim of the Andromeda sector. The ship's scanners picked up a faint signal, and I felt a jolt of excitement. "That's Aaron's ship," Rachel said, her eyes fixed on the scanner data. I nodded, my hand on the armrest. "Let's go." The docking bay door slid open, and we stepped out into the unknown, our footsteps echoing through the deserted space station. Aaron waited for us, his eyes gleaming with an otherworldly intensity. "Director," he said, his voice low and mysterious, "I see you're as curious as ever." I smiled, my heart pounding in my chest. "Let's get down to business, Aaron." "What do you know about the Zeridians' proposal?" Aaron's gaze darted around the docking bay, as if he was searching for unseen listeners. "Follow me," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. We followed him deeper into the space station, the air thick with tension. I couldn't shake off the feeling that we were being led down a rabbit hole, one from which we might never emerge. But I had to know the truth. I had to uncover the secrets hidden behind the Zeridians' proposal. And so I took the next step, my heart pounding in my chest, the fate of humanity hanging in the balance. The corridor stretched out before us, dimly lit and eerily quiet. Aaron led the way, his footsteps light on the grated floor. The air was thick with the scent of stale air and decay, a stark contrast to the sleek, modern facilities of the human empire. Rachel walked beside me, her eyes scanning the shadows, her hand resting on the grip of her blaster. I could sense her tension, her readiness to spring into action at a moment's notice. As we walked, the walls seemed to close in around us, the shadows deepening into dark, ominous pools. I felt a shiver run down my spine, my instincts screaming at me to turn back, to abandon this quest for knowledge. But I pushed on, driven by a growing sense of curiosity, of desperation. I had to know what lay behind the Zeridians' proposal, no matter the cost. Aaron stopped before a door, his eyes fixed on the console beside it. He entered a code, and the door slid open with a hiss, revealing a dimly lit room filled with row upon row of computer terminals. "Welcome to my humble abode," Aaron said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. I ignored the tone, my eyes fixed on the terminals. "What is this place?" Aaron smiled, his eyes glinting with amusement. "This, Director, is where I make my living. This is my own personal network where I gather information, where I uncover secrets." I took a step forward, my heart racing with excitement. "And what secrets have you uncovered about the Zeridians' proposal?" Aaron's smile grew wider, his eyes flashing with intensity. "Ah, Director, That's the best part. You see, I've discovered that the Zeridians aren't the only ones involved in this little game. My mind raced with possibilities, my heart pounding in my chest. Who else is involved? Aaron leaned in, his voice dropping to a whisper. The Galactic Council. I felt a jolt of shock, my mind reeling back. The Galactic Council. But they're the ones who exiled humanity. Aaron's smile was wicked, his eyes glinting with malice. Ah, yes, Director, but it seems they've had a change of heart. Or rather, they've had a change of interests. I took a step forward, my eyes locked on Aaron's. What do you mean? Aaron's gaze never wavered. I mean that the Galactic Council has been secretly backing the Zeridians' proposal, that they've been using them to test humanity's resolve, to push us to the brink of war. I felt a cold dread creeping up my spine, my heart pounding in my chest. But why? Aaron shrugged, his eyes glinting with amusement. Because, Director, the Galactic Council has realized that humanity is the greatest threat to their power, to their very existence. And they'll stop at nothing to eliminate that threat. I felt a wave of anger wash over me, my determination hardening into steel. Well, I have news for them. Humanity won't be eliminated without a fight. The rage burning within me was matched only by the cold calculation in my mind. I knew that this revelation changed everything. The Zeridians' proposal, the attacks on our borders, it was all just a diversion, a distraction from the true enemy, the Galactic Council. Aaron's words hung in the air, heavy with portent. I could feel Rachel's gaze on me, her silent support and loyalty a beacon in the darkness. What else do you know, Aaron? I asked, my voice low and deadly. Aaron's smile grew wider, his eyes glinting with a mixture of malice and admiration. Oh, Director, I have a treasure trove of secrets waiting to be uncovered. But I think it's time we got out of here. This place is no longer safe. I nodded, my mind already racing ahead. Agreed. We need to get back to the Empire to prepare for war. As we turned to leave, I caught a glimpse of something out of the corner of my eye. A terminal, hidden behind a stack of crates, its screen glowing with an urgent message. Wait, I said, my heart pounding with excitement. What's that? Aaron followed my gaze, his eyes narrowing. That's my own personal alert system. It seems I've received a message from an unknown sender. I took a step forward, my curiosity getting the better of me. Let's see it. Aaron's fingers flew across the console and the message appeared on the screen. It was a single sentence, written in plain text. Meet me on Tartarsivi. Come alone. I felt a shiver run down my spine. Who was behind the message and what did they want? What does it mean? Rachel asked, her voice low and suspicious. Aaron's eyes were thoughtful. I think it's a trap, Director, but it might just be the trap we need to set our plan in motion. I nodded, my mind already made up. I'll go, alone. Rachel's eyes flashed with concern, but she knew better than to argue. Aaron's smile was wicked, his eyes glinting with anticipation. I'll prepare a ship, Director, he said. You leave in an hour. As I turned to leave, I felt a sense of determination hardening within me. I would go to Tartarsivi, I would uncover the secrets behind the message, and I would bring back the information we needed to take down the Galactic Council once and for all. The game was on, and I was ready to play. I made my way back to the Empire, my mind racing with possibilities. The message on Tartarsivi could be a trap, but it could also be the break we needed. I couldn't shake off the feeling that this was more than just a coincidence. The Galactic Council was desperate and they would stop at nothing to crush us. As I boarded the ship, Aaron's parting words echoed in my mind. Be careful, Director. The Council will not hesitate to kill you if they get the chance. I nodded to myself, feeling a familiar sense of determination. I had faced worse odds before and I had come out on top. This time would be no different. The flight to Tartarsivi was uneventful, the silence giving me time to think. I went over the possibilities, weighing the risks and benefits. Who could be behind the message? Was it a rogue agent, a defector, or something more sinister? As the planet came into view, I felt a shiver run down my spine. Tartarsivi was a lawless world, a haven for smugglers and pirates. the perfect place for a clandestine meeting. I landed the ship in a secluded valley, the only sign of life a figure waiting for me in the distance. I approached cautiously, my hand on the hilt of my sword. The figure stepped forward, revealing a hooded face. "Welcome, Director," the figure said, its voice distorted. "I've been waiting for you." I drew my sword, ready for anything. "Who are you?" I demanded. The figure laughed, a cold, mirthless sound. "Someone who wants to see the Galactic Council burn. Someone who has information you desperately need." I narrowed my eyes. What kind of information? The figure pulled back its hood, revealing a familiar face. It was a senior officer, one who had been thought killed in action years ago. "Commander Vex," I said, surprise etched on my face. "I thought you were dead." Vex's eyes were hard, his face a map of scars. "I was Director. But I was brought back, rebuilt, and recruited by the Council. And I've been playing their game ever since, waiting for the perfect moment to strike back." I sheathed my sword, my mind racing with possibilities. This could be the break we needed, the key to taking down the Council once and for all. "What do you know, Commander?" I asked, my voice low and deadly. Vex's smile was a cold, calculated thing. "I know where the Council is hiding their secret fleet. I know their plans, their strategies, and their weaknesses, and I'm willing to share it all with you, Director." I felt a rush of excitement, my heart pounding in my chest. This was it, the moment we had been waiting for. The moment that would change the course of history. "Let's talk, Commander," I said, my voice dripping with anticipation. And with that, the game was truly afoot. The air was thick with tension as Vex began to speak, his words spilling out like a dam had burst. I listened intently, my mind absorbing every detail, every nuance. The Council's secret fleet, hidden deep in the heart of the galaxy, was a force to be reckoned with. Vex had been part of the inner circle, privy to the Council's most confidential plans. "They're a gathering strength, Director," Vex warned. "Building an armada that will crush humanity once and for all. They're convinced that we're the greatest threat to their power, and they'll stop at nothing to eliminate us." I nodded, my grip on my sword tightening. This was the confirmation I had been waiting for. The Council would not rest until they had destroyed us, and it was up to me to stop them. "What about their weaknesses, Commander?" I asked, my voice icy calm. Vex's eyes flickered, a hint of sadness creeping into his voice. "I've seen the horrors they've committed, Director. The experiments, the torture, the destruction of entire civilizations. But I've also seen their weaknesses. Their arrogance, their complacency, their over-reliance on technology." I nodded, my mind racing with strategies. This was it, the key to taking down the Council. I could feel it in my bones, the thrum of excitement coursing through my veins. "I need you to tell me everything, Commander," I said, my eyes locked on Vex's. "Every detail, every secret, every weakness." Vex nodded, his face set in a determined mask. "I'll tell you everything, Director, but you must promise me one thing." "What's that?" I asked, my voice cautious. "You must promise to use this information to destroy the Council, to bring them to their knees," Vex said, his voice dripping with venom. "I've seen the horrors they've committed, Director. I've lived through their cruelty, and I want them to pay for what they've done." I felt a surge of determination, my heart pounding in my chest. I would not rest until the Council was destroyed, until humanity was safe. I would do whatever it took, no matter the cost. "I promise you, Commander," I said, my voice firm. "I will use this information to bring the Council down. I will make them pay for what they've done." Vex's eyes gleamed with satisfaction, a cold smile spreading across his face. "Then let us begin, Director. Let us bring hell to the Galactic Council." As we walked back to the ship, the silence between us was palpable, the weight of our mission settling in. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and I knew that I would stop at nothing to secure our future. The game was truly afoot, and I was ready to play. The stars twinkled like diamonds against the blackness of space as we flew back to the heart of the human empire, the weight of our mission settling in like a mantle. I could feel the burden of responsibility, the fate of humanity resting on my shoulders. But I was not alone. I had Vex, a man consumed by his desire for vengeance against the Council. As we walked onto the ship, Kaylin greeted us, her eyes narrowing as she took in the tension between us. "What did you learn, Director?" she asked, her voice laced with concern. I smiled, a cold, calculated smile. "We have a new ally, Kaylin. One who knows the Council's secrets, who can help us bring them down." Kaylin's eyes flickered to Vex, a mixture of curiosity and wariness on her face. "And what makes you think we can trust him, Director?" I chuckled, a low, menacing sound. "Trust is a luxury we can't afford, Kaylin, but I believe Vex has a score to settle with the Council, and I am willing to use that to our advantage." Vex's eyes flashed with anger, but he said nothing, his silence speaking volumes. Kaylin nodded, her expression thoughtful. "I'll start running background checks on him, Director. See if we can verify his story." I nodded, my mind already racing with strategies. "Do it, Kaylin, and gather the senior officers. We have a war to plan." The meeting was tense, the air thick with anticipation. I stood at the head of the table, my eyes locked on the holographic display projecting the Council's secret fleet. "We have confirmation of the Council's plans," I began, my voice firm. "They're a gathering strength, building an armada to crush us once and for all." The room erupted into a flurry of questions, but I raised a hand, silencing them. "We know the Council's weaknesses. Their arrogance, their complacency, their over-reliance on technology. And we have Vex, who's willing to share his knowledge with us." I turned to Vex, who stood at the edge of the room, his eyes fixed on the hologram. "Commander, please." Vex stepped forward, his voice clear and concise as he outlined the Council's plans, their strengths and weaknesses. The room was silent, the officers hanging on his every word. As Vex finished, the room erupted into chaos, the officers arguing and discussing strategies. I let them, my mind already racing with plans. I knew that this was it, the moment of truth. We would either emerge victorious or we would be crushed. I turned to Kaylin, my voice low. "Get me everything you can on the Council's fleet, Kaylin. I want to know their numbers, their firepower, their tactics." Kaylin nodded, her eyes flashing with determination. "I am on it, Director." I turned to Vex, my eyes locked on his. "Commander, I want you to work with our engineers. See if we can modify our ships to counter the Council's technology." Vex nodded, a cold, calculating smile spreading across his face. "I'll make it happen, Director." The meeting continued, the plans flowing together like a river. I knew that we had a long road ahead of us, but I was ready. I was ready to do whatever it took to secure humanity's future. As the meeting adjourned, I stood alone, my eyes fixed on the stars. The game was truly afoot, and I was ready to play. But I knew that the Council would not go quietly. They would fight, and they would fight dirty. And I was ready to do the same. I felt a presence beside me, and I turned to see Vex standing at my shoulder. "Director," he said, his voice low, "I have something to show you." I raised an eyebrow, my curiosity piqued. "What is it, Commander?" Vex smiled, a cold, calculating smile. "Come and see, Director. Come and see the true extent of the Council's cruelty." I followed Vex, my curiosity burning like a fire. We walked through the ship's corridors, the hum of machinery and the murmur of voices fading into the background. Vex led me to a secure room, the door sliding open with a soft hiss. Inside, I saw a figure huddled in the corner, shrouded in shadows. Vex stepped aside, his eyes gleaming with a cold intensity. "Meet Arya, Director," he said, his voice dripping with venom. Arya, the Council's greatest experiment. I took a step forward, my eyes adjusting to the dim light. Arya looked up, her eyes locking onto mine. I felt a jolt of recognition, a spark of something primal and ancient. It was as if I was staring into the face of humanity's greatest fear. Arya's eyes were black as coal, her skin pale and translucent. Her once beautiful features were twisted, distorted by some unseen force. I could see the pain and the suffering etched into her very being. "What did they do to her?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. Vex's smile grew wider, his eyes flashing with anger. "The Council pushed the boundaries of technology, Director. They sought to create the perfect soldier, a being with enhanced strength, speed, and agility. But they went too far. They crossed the line into madness." Arya's eyes locked onto mine and I felt a shiver run down my spine. I saw the depth of her suffering, the weight of her past. I knew that she was a victim, a pawn in the Council's twisted game. I can help her, I said, my voice firm. I can give her a new purpose, a new life. Vex's smile faltered, his eyes narrowing. You don't understand, Director. Arya is a ticking time bomb. She's a creature of destruction, a being driven by primal instincts. You can't control her no matter how hard you try. I looked at Arya and I saw the truth in her eyes. I saw the monster that lurked beneath the surface, the beast that craved destruction and chaos. But I also saw something else, something hidden deep beneath the surface. I saw hope. "I'll take that risk, Vex," I said, my voice firm. "I'll take that risk because I believe that humanity's greatest strength lies in its capacity for redemption." Vex's smile returned, his eyes glinting with amusement. "You're a fool, Director, but I'll let you play with fire. See if you can tame the beast within." I turned to Arya, my eyes locked onto hers. "Arya, I'll give you a new life. I'll give you a new purpose. Will you let me try?" Arya's eyes flashed with a spark of curiosity, a glimmer of hope. I saw the beginnings of something new, something raw and primal. I saw the birth of a new creature, a being driven by redemption rather than destruction. I reached out and Arya took my hand. In that moment, I knew that the game had changed. I knew that the stakes had just gotten higher, and I knew that the Council would stop at nothing to destroy us all. As I held Arya's hand, I felt a jolt of electricity run through my veins. It was as if the very fabric of the universe had shifted, as if the rules of the game had changed. I looked into her eyes and I saw a glimmer of determination, a spark of defiance. "You're coming with me, Arya," I said, my voice firm. "We'll leave this ship behind, leave the Council's twisted experiments behind. We'll forge a new path, a new destiny." Arya's grip on my hand tightened, her eyes flashing with a fierce intensity. I felt a surge of power, a rush of adrenaline. I knew that I had made the right decision. Vex's smile grew wider, his eyes gleaming with amusement. "You're making a grave mistake, Director," he said, his voice dripping with venom. "Arya is a liability, a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. You'll regret this decision." I turned to Vex, my eyes locked onto his. "You're wrong, Vex," I said, my voice cold. "Arya is a symbol of redemption, a symbol of humanity's capacity for forgiveness, and I'll make sure that the Council pays for what they've done to her." Vex's smile faltered, his eyes narrowing. "You're playing with fire, Director," he said, his voice dripping with malice. "You'll get burned and you'll take humanity down with you." I turned to Arya, my eyes locked onto hers. "Let's get out of here, Arya," I said, my voice firm. "Let's forge a new path, a new destiny." Arya nodded, her eyes flashing with determination. Together we walked out of the secure room, leaving Vex's venomous words behind. We walked through the ship's corridors, the hum of machinery and the murmur of voices fading into the background. As we emerged into the bright lights of the ship's hangar, I felt a sense of freedom, a sense of liberation. I knew that I had made the right decision, that I had taken the first step towards redemption. Arya stood by my side, her eyes locked onto mine. I saw the glimmer of hope, the spark of determination. I knew that we had a long way to go, that we had to navigate the treacherous waters of the galaxy. But I also knew that we had each other, that we had forged a bond that would last a lifetime. And I knew that together we could overcome any obstacle, any challenge. As we walked towards the ship's exit, I felt a sense of pride, a sense of purpose. I knew that I had taken the first step towards forging a new empire, a new destiny for humanity. And I knew that the Council would stop at nothing to destroy us all. The stakes had just gotten higher. The game had just begun. I looked at Arya and I smiled. "Let's show them what we're made of, Arya," I said, my voice firm. "Let's show them the true meaning of redemption." Arya's eyes flashed with a spark of defiance, and I knew that we were ready to take on the galaxy.